Hello, Miss Tyne here with your math lesson for today. Now, today we're going to work on some story problems, kind of like we did yesterday, only we're not talking about the Ant's Toy Store anymore. We're going to move on to something a little different. We're going to talk more about solving story problems with something called regrouping. Now, regrouping is making groups of 10 when adding and subtracting numbers with 2 or more digits. Now, you've already been regrouping for the past couple days. Most of your Ant's Toy Store problems have been all about regrouping, so this is something you are pretty familiar with already. So by the end of the day, you're going to be able to say that I can solve a 3-digit addition equation in at least 2 different ways. And all of the strategies or the ways we're going to use today, you've used before. So let's go ahead and refresh our memories on what those are. The first one is drawing the problem with base 10 area pieces. We know how to do this. Remember, a hundreds piece is just a square. All of our tens pieces are lines, and our ones pieces, they're just little dots. We know how to do that to help us solve problems. The second thing we're going to do, or strategy we're going to use, is breaking up the numbers to add the hundreds, the tens, and the ones separately. You've done this a lot too, looking at a really big number and thinking about the place value. How can you add just the hundreds together, just the tens together, and just the ones together, and then add them all up? So you've done that before. We're going to keep working on that today. That's another strategy. Your third strategy is one we use all the time in second grade. It's such a good one, using an open number line. So we're going to look at how we can use an open number line to solve our 3-digit story problems. And then we're going to talk just a little bit about a traditional equation. This is probably the way your parents have tried to help you with math at home, which is, it's a really good tool. But if you're not using this strategy, that's fine. We don't need to know it yet. We'll just look at it a little bit to see if you can start to use it if you want to, but you don't have to. So let's go ahead and look at our first story problem of the day. Now, this problem says, the Lynn family drove to Washington, D.C. for a vacation. On the first day, they drove 275 miles. On the second day, they drove 165 miles. How many miles did they drive in all? Now, I want to think about what is this problem asking me? And this problem is asking me how many miles did they drive in all? So this is an addition equation. So I know that I have to take 275 plus 165 to find my total. Now before I start to solve this problem, I'm going to think if maybe I can kind of guess how many miles it will be. Could you think of a good estimate of about how many miles they drove in all? Now, a good estimate might be around 400 miles. Because I know that 275 miles is a little more than 250 miles, and I know that 50 is half of 100, so it's kind of like 250 miles. And then I see 165 miles. Well, I know that 65 is really close to 50. And if I add 250 plus 150, I know that's 400, so it'll probably be a little more than 400. That's how I would make a good estimate of how many it will be. But instead of just estimating, I'm going to go ahead and use our first strategy. And our first strategy is draw the problem with base 10 area pieces. Now, we know how to do this. We would take our first number, which is 275, and we draw our hundreds, our squares, so that's 100, 200, and then I need to draw my tens, and a 10 is just a line, so I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tens, and I need my ones. My ones are dots, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ones. That's my first amount of miles for my first day. And now I need to add on my 165 miles. So I start with my 100. I draw my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tens, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ones for 165. Now I know that I'm adding because I see in all, so I'm going to start with my biggest number, my hundreds, my biggest place. So I can see right away that I have 1, 2, 3 hundredths pieces. So I'll just write 300. And then I'm going to start to count my tens pieces. So I already know that I have 7 here. So I have 7, 8, 9, 10. Now remember, when we have 10 tens, we actually have 100 because 10 tens equals 100. So I know that this is another 100. So I'm going to move it over, just draw a big circle around it and move it over into my hundreds pieces. So I'm actually adding another 100. So I have 300 plus another 100 to equal 400. So I actually have 400 already, and we kind of knew we'd have 400 because we estimated first. Now I'll count my tens. I see that I have 1, 2, 3 tens, and if I have 3 tens, I actually have 30. So I have 30 there, and then I can count my ones. Well, I already know that I have 5 at the end of each number, and 5 doubled makes 10. So I'm going to circle all of my ones. I'm actually going to turn them into a 10, so I'm just going to move them over with my arrow to my tens, and I'm going to say 30 plus another 10 equals 40. And I don't have any other ones, so I can just add up my 400 plus 40 is 440. So they have driven 440 miles in all. Now that's the first strategy that we can use, and it's a pretty good one. So if you use that one, great. But remember, we're asking you to use 2 different strategies today. So let's go ahead and take a look at the second strategy we could use. Now we could break up the numbers to add the hundreds, tens, and ones separately. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm adding the same numbers. I'm adding 275 plus 165 again. So I'm going to start with my biggest place value. And I know that I have my hundreds, tens, and ones in a 3-digit number. So I have my hundreds, tens, and my ones, and my hundreds is the biggest. So I see 200 on the first day. So I'm going to add my 200. And then another 100 on the second day. So I'm going to add my other 100 to equal 300. So I have 300 miles so far. Now I'm going to go to my tens place. Now I see my 7 in my first tens place, and we know that that's actually 70. And then I see my 6 in my other tens place, which is actually 60 because it's in the tens place. And now I can count up from 7 in my head or on my fingers, adding 6 more as I count. So I had a 7, hold up my fingers, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 7 plus 6 is 13, but I need to keep my 0 to have 130. And now I have my ones, and I know that 5 plus 5 is 10, so I have my 10 ones. That's how many ones I have. So 10 plus no ones equals 10. And now I can just go ahead and add up all of my numbers over here. So 0 plus 0 plus 0, well, we know that that's still 0. 0 plus 3 plus 1, we know that that's 4. And 3 plus 1 plus nothing here is 4. So different strategy, same answer of 400 40 miles. So now let's have a look at our third strategy. Now our third strategy is one we use quite a bit in second grade. We're using an open number line. So I'm going to start right away just by drawing my open number line. It's just a really long line. It's okay if it's a little wobbly like mine. And then we're going to start at our bigger number. To save us some work, it's easier if we start at our bigger number. So we make our first mark and we start at 275. And we're going to make as big of a jumps as we can, adding 165. So I'm just going to add up, starting with my 100. I know I can make a big jump of 100 right away. So if I make my big jump of 100, I know that I'm going to end up on 375. And now I'm going to be a good thinker and think about, what can I add on? Now, I know that I'm going to have 6 more 10s. So I could make 6 jumps of 10. Now, that's something I know how to do, so I can just do that really easily right away. So 375 plus 10 is going to be 385, plus another 10 is going to be 395, plus another 10 is going to be I'm going to write 395 so I don't lose track of what I'm doing. So 2.9%, it's going to be 405. Oh, good, I'm glad I wrote that down. I know this is 405, plus another 10 is going to be 415. I'll write that down just so I write some of them down so I don't lose track of what I'm doing. That's why it's important to write this down as you go. So now I have 40 so far. I know I need 60 to add on. So another 10 would get us to 425. And then another 10 would get us to 435. So I know that I'm at 435 miles. I need 5 more. And then I'm at 440 miles. Sorry, I had to extend my line a little bit. Plus 5 to get to 440 miles. Excellent. Third strategy, same amount of miles. So that shows us that each strategy works really well. And now I'm just going to show you our last strategy pretty quickly because we don't use it very often, and that's okay if we don't use that very often yet. So our last strategy that we can use is just a traditional equation. And when you write a traditional equation, you write the biggest number on top, so 275, and then we write 165 underneath. We draw our line and we write our plus sign. And I know that I'm going to start at my ones, and if you know that too, excellent. If not, that's okay. 5 plus 5 is 10, so I put my 0 because that's in my ones place on the bottom, and I add my 1 above the 7. So I'm going to add 7 plus 6 is 13, plus 1 more is 14. Now I can put my 1 or my 10 under here, and I need to carry my 1 for my 14. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 to equal 440. Now I'm not going to take much more time to explain that because if you don't know how to use that strategy, that's okay. Use the other 3. The other 3 are good ones to use. So those are some strategies you can use to solve these problems. Now you're going to have one problem to solve on your own in Seesaw. And what you're going to do is you're going to solve this problem twice. Now, when you solve this problem, circle the strategies you use. So if you use base 10 pieces, circle that one, solve it and show your work. Go to the next page and solve it in a different way, using a different strategy. So circle your strategy and then show all of your work. And there will be that little button on the bottom to hear me read this problem to you again. Get to work and use your strategies.